Greetings from Scouse Farm on this unbelievably beautiful day. It's a special day for me. It's November the 6th as at the time of filming, which is, God rest her soul, my mother's birthday. So happy birthday, Mum, up in heaven. And I'm going to show you a few wonderful buildings, this being one of them, but I've not got the history of everything because I didn't research enough of it and it'd take too long. But I just wanted to show you a few of the just staggering buildings in this part of Liverpool. And I think we've got the museum there with Britannia on top. There she is, sat up there on the top with a trident. And what was I going to say? Yeah, I've been here before. It was last year. It was a bit windy, but this fountain, the Stebble fountain that you can see I'm pointing at now, that is famous for being the site of a really famous picture of one of the most influential musicians that's ever been. And he was a street urchin scouser named Gordon Stretton. And if you've not heard of him, I'll leave a link to the video at the end of this one. So the video of that will be here somewhere. So I'd urge any scouser who's never heard of him to definitely watch that video, because wow, the insane world fame he achieved by starting off as a little street urchin with no shoes walking around this city is just incredible. He ended up speaking 5 different languages and literally changed music forever in Latin America. So that is seriously worth a look. Right, let's get on with the video. So the first thing I want to show you, I'm just going to show you a few little quirks about this part of Liverpool. Just in front of the Empire Theatre there, going past Nelson's Column, which in a week or so will be the Wellington, Duke of Wellington, actually it says there. Yeah, that's the Duke of Wellington, so that's the Waterloo one. But this will be the site of the remembrance parades, which are coming up next week. Oh, it's massive. You didn't realise till you stand underneath how tall these things are. But the first little quirk before I walk you around the back of St George's Hall, excuse me, I think I've swallowed a fly or something, is these units of measure. So you can see all these little blocks on the floor here. These are chain links. So this was where if you wanted to sell chain, it had to be of this length. So people who were manufacturing chains for the maritime industry and whatever else, they would have to use this as a measuring stick or just a yardstick or whatever to make sure that you got the correct amount of links and you were buying the correct standard size chain. And there on the floor is the standard measure of 100 feet or the standard chain of 100 links, and that is slap bang right in the middle of the floor in front of the museum, which is mad because I didn't know about them until I found out about them. And then sticking with the old units of measure, we've got even more on the bottom of this column. So this is where all of the tailors, the people who were knocking up suits and things for the gentry at the time, they would have to use 1 foot there. So you can see at the top, that's one foot at the top from the left to the block there, and then standing back a bit you've got 2 feet. So these are all measurements, and then an imperial yard underneath. And the standard measures at 62 Fahrenheit, verified by the Standards Department Board of Trade. And again, that was what was used by all the tailors. Excellent stuff. So let's walk up to the oh no, there's loads of people there. I'm gonna have to mooch through a few people because it looks like there's a little tour group or something, unless I can step over these chains. But I'm just going to walk you through the front, and then we're going to go round into St John's Gardens because I wanted to show you some of the statues to the fallen, because we're coming up to Remembrance Day, and give you a little bit of history on what used to be here before St George's Hall was here. So this, what you're looking at now, St George's Hall, this was designed by Harvey Lonsdale Elms, who won a competition and submitted his design, and it was chosen as the one to be put forward. And he was only 25 years of age. So the architect who designed this unbelievable building, which was said by some fella called Nicolaus Pevner in 1969, who's an architectural historian, I believe, he said it's one of the finest examples of Neo-Grecian buildings in the world, because it's got remnants of Grecian and Roman architecture in it. There's a myth around this, or I think it's a myth. I imagine it's a myth because I can't find any actual evidence of it. But so many people in Liverpool think this has been built the wrong way around. So they all think that's the back and it's supposed to be the front, or the other way around. But when it was designed, the foundation stone was laid in 1838, and it was facing this way because over there is Liverpool Lion Street Station, which opened in 1836. So it was always intended that you step out of the train station and then you're confronted with the front of this magnificent building. So from what I can gather anyway, it's facing the correct way. And the other myth about that is that Harvey Lonsdale Elms was so embarrassed about it being built the wrong way around, he threw himself off the building and committed you know what. But again, I'm not having that for two reasons. One, I can't find any evidence that he did jump off the building, and two, he died in when was it, 1847 I think. So he died in 1847 and the building wasn't opened until 1854. So unless he just scooched up one of the scaffolds and took a nosedive off the top, I think that's just an urban myth. Some unfortunate stuff in the sky there. But look at the buildings around here. It's just such a beautiful place. Look at what history did for us, and look at what's getting knocked up today. Some of the horrendous buildings that don't even last 10 years before they've got damp and mold in them and everything. You got this sort of stuff standing tall and proud. That, you know, this was opened in 1854, this building, with all of the beautiful design to it. But I want to take you up and also show you these lions, because I don't know, this is one where there is a myth, but I don't know if it is actually true or not. I'm not sure. There's people who say it is, and there's people who say it is not. So I'll let you have your own little think about it when I get up to the front of these lions. But these lions were sculpted by W.G. Nicol in around 1855-56, and they were somewhere else around here, but they were placed here where they are now in 1864. And I think Charles Robert Cockerell, who had a lot to do with carrying on the design of St George's Hall after Harvey Lonsdale Elms passed away, he was responsible apparently for putting these lions here. But there's 4 of them now, but I want to show you this one particularly because it's the one that will reference what may or may not be a myth, but it's got everything you expect to have. So you can see he's got little teeth in his mouth, and you know, he's got nice paws and all that, but there's no tongue, or you can't see a tongue. And the myth goes, I'll just zoom in on him. Where are we? Or the saying goes that these were actually made for a fountain in London, but they were moved up here to be placed in front of St George's Hall because for whatever reason the fountain didn't get built or something, and it was supposed to be that the tongue isn't there because water was supposed to pop out of the lion's mouth, and this bit at the back was where the water was supposed to be plumbed in. But I'm not too sure if it's true or not. People say it is, people say it isn't, but I'll leave it up to you. But anyway, they're here now, and they're guarding the front of this magnificent building. And within the building, I'm just going to give you one of the world firsts. Another world first for Liverpool is that Dr. Boswell Reed designed the world's first air conditioning for a building. So inside this building is the first time, because in the summer you can imagine a big open space like that inside, and the sun beating down on it, it would get quite hot for the people inside. And intricate design of like cold water, running water and fountains were put through ventilation shafts, and then loads of workers inside would open and close these little canvas flaps to get the cool air to blow into the, I think there's a concert hall, there was some law courts, meeting rooms and other things like that within St George's Hall. So this houses the world's first intricate air conditioning for an entire building, which is quite nice, isn't it? Another world first for Liverpool. And as I say, I can't go around and show you every statue and every little monument and plaque, but you can gather by just looking at the building, it's absolutely phenomenal. But the main reason I wanted to come down this way is because I wanted to show you the war graves and the statues out the back in what is now known as St John's Gardens. But going back to George's Hall, it's grade 1 listed, one of many grade 1 listed buildings in Liverpool, which houses the largest amount of grade 1 listed buildings outside of London in the country. And it was given World Heritage status, and it's thanks to a fella who drops comments in my videos, Stephen, because I recently filmed the Albert Dock, which was also on the list of the World Heritage sites, and it was given that status in 2004. But in 2021 they decided to get rid of it because of all of the, well, irreversible loss of the beauty of the front of Liverpool with all of these new buildings that have been put up there. And I'll give you a little quote from the World Heritage UNESCO people. It said, "It's been removed due to the irreversible loss of attributes conveying the outstanding universal value of the property." So we took years and years to get on that list, and then the council and whoever it was out in government decided to allow those absolutely horrendous buildings, those big glass block things, to be built on the waterfront. So we've now been removed from that list. So imagine there's people out there who had it on the bucket list to go and visit every city on the UNESCO heritage site, and now they'll be chalking Liverpool off because we're no longer on it. But I'm going to keep us on it, so I'm more important than UNESCO. So I think as a Scouser we should be on it, so we're staying on it. So if you do want to visit World Heritage cities, this is one of them. So let's get on to some of the St John's Garden stuff that I wanted to show you, which is where we're popping into now. Within this garden there are over 20 different monuments to conflict, and there was, where I'm pointing now, up towards the back of this St George's Hall, up to this area here, there was a church called St John's Church, which was built in 1784. And this area of Liverpool was also the home to the the city's first general infirmary, which was built somewhere around here in 1749. It was also a seamen's hospital in 1752, a dispensary in 1778, I think, and then a lunatic asylum in 1789. It's typical, they're mowing the grass or something, so I can't go over there without getting destroyed on the microphone. But yeah, the church was where I'm about to point now. It backed up all the way to this area, and it was demolished to make way for these gardens in 1898 because they didn't want it to spoil the St George's Hall view, and they wanted a peaceful garden to be built out the back of the hall for people to come and picnic and whatnot. So the former church was demolished, as mentioned, in 1898, or around then they started taking it down. And I'll leave a link down below, because in the video description underneath there'll be a link to an article with pictures of the church when it was in place, and I think the article shows some pictures of when they were dismantling it and bringing it down, because I can see parts of St George's Hall behind. And as you know, that was opened in 1854, so the church was already there. But wow, yeah, they're just mowing the grass and everything, so that's not the best time to be showing you some of the statues, but nothing you can do about that. But what I'll do now then, I'll just show you some of the statues in this garden and give you a little indication of what lies beneath, because we are actually in a cemetery or a graveyard, and within this graveyard there are lots of French prisoners of war buried, which were people captured from the French Navy by the Royal Navy and British privateers, and they would go out and try and capture ships, and they would be paid if they brought any enemy warships back to the ports of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So it's ridiculous. Let's go a little bit further down. So yeah, we're where I'm walking, this is actually a graveyard which housed quite a number. I think over 4,000 French prisoners of war were buried here originally. We've got the Liverpool Kings as well. So Liverpool's famous regiment, the King's Regiment, have got their own dedicated. Let's see if I can get it without the sun being on there. But this is a memorial to the King's Regiment, which is specific to one regiment, which is very unusual because war memorials are usually just to the general army and that was taking part in campaigns. But this one with, let's get up here, you can see there, Pro Patria. So this one is for country, is reference to the King's Regiment, and it's a statue of Britannia flanked by soldiers that are in different dresses depending on what campaign it depicts throughout the ages and the history of the regiment. And it was, I think, placed here on the 4th of August 1905 by Field Marshal Sir George White. It was designed by the sculptor William Goscombe John, and it was paid for by public subscription and not the regiment itself. So it's also publicly funded, which again is unusual because usually when you get individual regimental memorials, it's paid for by the regiment itself. Where else can I go that's not super noisy? We'll go to this other one. But within the grounds that I'm walking through that are ridiculously noisy, there's, as I say, there's 20 different monuments to conflicts throughout the ages. So I'll just walk you around now, show you a couple. Coming up to Remembrance Day, this is where most of those in Liverpool will be standing. Right, as you can see, I'm not going to get any luck with these wood chippers. So thank you all very much for watching. Have yourselves a great day. And Scouse Farm, at one of the most beautiful parts of Liverpool. We'll see you all again soon.